we can get started.
Santana.
Right here. Could all of the council members please come in and have a seat? All the council members. About to get started. If all the council members can come in and have a seat, we're about to get started. All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Griffin.
Here.
Bishop. Conwell. Gray. Hairston. Harsh. House Jones. Jones. Casey. Kelly. Moorer. McCormack. Polensik. Santana. Slife. Spencer. Starr. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Will everyone please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll make the following statement, and please adhere to the statement that I am putting forward. This meeting of Cleveland City Council is a lawful meeting under Section 605.04 of the Codified Ordinances. No person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public are invited to speak only under the rules set by this council. Disruptions, including but not limited to speaking out of turn and making loud noises and loud utterances, are in violation of the rules and interfere with the due conduct of this lawful meeting. Such disruptions may constitute a misdemeanor and a violation of Section 605.04. Anyone who disrupts this lawful meeting in violation of the codified ordinances commits misdemeanors and is subject to prosecution. The following is the first and only warning. If this meeting is disrupted, I will gavel a halt to the proceedings and direct the assembled officers to escort any person participating in the disruption out of the chamber. Once persons participating in the disruption are outside of the chambers, the officers will close the doors and the disruptors will be handled as directed by the Director of Public Safety. The council proceedings will not begin again until those that participated in the disruption have left the chamber and the chamber doors are closed. Disruptors will not be allowed back in the chamber after the meeting resumes. Again, this is the first and only warning. In addition, I want to make sure that everyone is clearly aware signage and those kind of things are also not allowed and will be considered as being disruptive as well. Madam Clerk, please dispense with the journal.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the reading of the minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with the journal approved, seconded by Councilmember Polensik.
Thank you. We'll now move to public comment. I would ask that all of the commenters adhere to the strict 3-minute rule. Once you see the yellow light, that means to wrap it up. Once you see the red light, that means to abruptly stop. Each speaker has 3 minutes, and we're going to go in order of what people have called for. I want to ask all of the council members to turn around and acknowledge the speakers, and I'd ask that all of the speakers please adhere to your time. First, we have Juan Collado Diaz. Mr. Diaz is from Ward 11. He's here to talk about the ward maps. He's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Mr. Diaz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everybody. I first want to say Feliz Dia de Reyes, or Happy Three Kings Day to everybody. And I would like to ask Council if you can acknowledge that in your celebrations in the future. Now, going with that, I want to talk about the maps. We have seen the new maps, and we have seen how much of a mess they are. I myself am an employee for community development through the CDC, and I know how awful that's going to be for me, as it's going to be for every one of my residents, to get divided and cut into wards, and how awful it's going to be for those groups out there working on an everyday basis to help their communities. So I'm asking for you to please revise the maps one more time, get some citizen input on it, and check what is best for the city. Right now, cutting the words the way that they're being cut is just giving you and your close friends an amazing amount of areas for you to take over, and the huge amount of gerrymandering that is happening. Then I want to also go over something that was said in the last council meeting before the break, and it was by Councilman Polensek, which was said about the ward, the Latino ward. It was referred as the Latino ward, and I want to correct that, because when you use that kind of terminology, is literally going for and saying that you're segregating a city. Cleveland is one of the largest cities that is segregated in this country, and we are not doing anything about it. And these maps are just keeping the same exact issue going and going after and after. So I do ask that in the future, we don't use terminology like that, and we actually look at how we write in the wards. So please, again, take in consideration the way you write in your wards. Ask the citizens for their input, and not just give a 5-minute little time or the day before. No, please ask them with weeks in advance, perhaps months, and think about this before we write in it. I know your elections are coming up, and you need these maps to be written for your elections so they can support you and get you back into the seat. But don't think about your future job. Think about Cleveland as a city, because that's what you should be thinking about, not your job and your salary. So again, rethink this and do better, please.
Next, we have Diab Dar Issa from Ward 11, Why Redistricting Matters and the Importance of Community Engagement Coalition for a Better Cleveland and Not Being Paid by Anyone. Is Diab Dar Issa? You have the floor.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully you had a great holiday season. We had a great 2024, and the fight still continues in 2025. I can still proudly say after this map unveiling, I am still a Ward 11 resident by maybe a few streets, but I still am, so happy about that. A big word last year was gerrymandering. It was a big focus up until the election, and right after it happened, we never heard about it. And now that the maps that we're voting on tonight, it feels like this is really the last say we really have, which is why I really wanted to sign up for public comment. I did attend the first community feedback session on October 15th at Tri-Cities Metro Campus, but even then I still feel like this was a final draft. I feel like our input's really not taken into consideration. Some people may think that these are just lines on a piece of paper, but you know what? They used to say that also about redlining. Some people may wonder, Diab, you're still in Ward 11, why do you care so much? And to that I have to say that these lines mean so much more to me. Within these lines are residents, neighborhoods with a rich history, communities, and people and businesses that have been here for generations. These lines are our tickets to representation. Who's being catered to here? The residents, or is this a matter of incumbent protection? Gerrymandering is something I want to say let's do away with in 2024. Equitable and reasonable representation reflected by the newly drawn ward boundary lines. Now that's what I want to bring into 2025. I may still be Ward 11, but my neighborhood is being cut up. All of our neighborhoods are being cut up. And behind these lines, there are people, there are faces, there are histories, and there are stories that still need to be told. Even after your guys' terms are done, these lines are going to still stick with these neighborhoods. So please take this into consideration. It's so much more important than the vote in November. These are real people and real communities. Thank you, and that's my time.
Thank you. Next, we have Michael Hardy. Michael Hardy is from Cleveland West Side. He's here to talk about redistricting. He's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Mr. Hardy, you have the floor.
Okay, greetings, everyone. Greetings, Council President, Council member, staff, attendees, and Mayor Bibb. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Michael Hardy. I live in Ward 11 and serve as Ward 11's ward leader. I'm here to talk about the redistricting process that will be voted on tonight, I hear. We understood that this day was coming, and now it is here. The boundaries for Ward 11 were discussed during the City Council election in Ward 11 back in 2021. Now, the boundaries were discussed even more during the special election of 2023. There were many in the ward, including myself, who were aware that precincts 11A and 11B were getting moved to what is now Ward 16 and will be Ward 13. This was discussed and considered during the 2010 census, so we've known about this for some time. But what wasn't discussed was splitting precinct 11B. Now, this area is arguably the first area in Cuyahoga County with a sizable number of African-American residents. They were brought here to work on the railroad back in the late 1800s, and they resided in what is now Ward 11 and Ward 11A and B. Highway I-71 moved a street moved some people out of the way, so they had to move north of the Highway 71 to live in some areas there. And you still have families who live on both sides of the highway. And this is near Lindale. I'm talking about the railroad in Lindale. That's where the people worked, West Lindale, they call it. So 11A and 11B borders are identifiable. They're clearly identifiable. This is a voting block, and it's a strong voting block, one of the biggest voting blocks in the area. And this is getting divided. You know, those streets need to stay intact. This is probably an issue in other communities where similar things are happening now and have happened. But what we always want to do in a democracy is let people know that, you know, they are not cut out of this democracy and that they can be involved in the democratic process. You know, people need to know that their vote counts and that their vote is meaningful. Keeping the integrity of the Ward 11 communities intact was important in 2023 during that election. It was talked about quite a bit. But now keeping the integrity of precincts 11A and 11B intact is important. You know, I actually live in 11B. I am asking you to pause this vote so that we can have further discussions on the redistricting process in Ward 11 and in other areas where I know there's quite a bit of talk going on. But I want to thank you for listening, and may God bless everyone here. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Nadia Zaim. She does not live here in Cleveland, but is here to talk about the ward redistricting. Nadia represents the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland and not being paid by anyone. Nadia, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council President and members. My name is Nadia Zaim. I am co-president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland. For over 100 years, the League has been a nonpartisan grassroots organization that believes voters should play a critical role in democracy. Our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. That is why we advocate for fair redistricting at the state and local level. This past year, the League actively advocated for Issue 1, the statewide effort to take Ohio redistricting out of the hands of politicians and create a fair, transparent, and public process. We cheered when Council unanimously approved Resolution 1083-2024 in support of Issue 1, stating that gerrymandering takes power away from the people of Ohio and Cleveland, allowing representatives to choose their voters rather than voters choosing their representatives, thereby undermining the foundational principles of free and fair elections that produce democratic governance. Like the voters of Ohio, the residents of the city of Cleveland deserve a redistricting process that includes time for meaningful public input and revisions. You have a wonderful opportunity to show the state of Ohio how fair redistricting works. Maps which keep neighborhoods together not only build strong communities, but they encourage voting. People will vote if they feel like their vote makes a difference. When wards are drawn in a way that splits communities and neighborhoods, people don't see a connection between their vote and what happens in our government. We have provided you with a handout with our proposed map as an example of how it is possible to draw a fair map, one that keeps communities and neighborhoods together, has wards fairly equal in population, and gives citizens a true voice and representation. It even includes 2 true Hispanic opportunity districts, wards 11 and 14, with Hispanic voting age population of at least 32%. Please do not rush this important process. City Council has known since April 2021, when it received census data, that a map with fewer wards would have to be drawn. Nevertheless, Council took no action for 3 years until May 2024. After this delay, now there's a rush to approve maps without time for meaningful community input and revisions. The League applauds Council for having 3 community meetings in October. However, those meetings were held with only a week's notice and were ill-timed just prior to the November general election. The most important time for public engagement is when citizens can respond to a proposed map. Now is the time for community input, public meetings, and revisions based on public input. We hope that you take a step back, listen to your constituents, allow time for meaningful public input, and adopt a map that reflects the communities you serve. The League will continue to fight for fair maps at both the state and local levels, empowering voters and defending democracy. Thank you.
Once again, signs and displays are not allowed. And once again, I did not want to interrupt Mrs. Zaim's opportunity for public comment, but the next time someone puts a sign up, we will be instructing them to be removed. Signs are not allowed in these chambers. Thank you. Next up is Dean Van Farrell from Ward 15 to talk about the new ward maps. Dean is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. It's very good to be here. My name is Reverend Dean Van Farrell. I'm a 25-year resident of Detroit Shoreway. I'm also employed in the ward as a pastor of Calvary Reformed. I ask you tonight to reject the proposed ward maps. And the main reason is that cohesive neighborhoods are split up or mapped unnaturally. So I live on 65th between Bridge and Lorraine Avenues. Previously, my ward went to a natural border, West 85th. And then in 2014 to Cadell Commons Park, still a natural boundary. Now it strangely ends to the west at Little West 73rd Street, but more strangely heads east all the way past Burke Lakefront Airport. What do Burke Lakefront and Detroit Shoreway share in common? How could a council member oversee both of those well? Speaking of downtown, it will now be split into 3 wards. How inefficient to serve as a council member there. Take another example. A friend of mine lives on West 89th Street. They commented to me that their new ward will extend all the way to Old Brooklyn. Imagine they can no longer speak to the concerns of Cadell Park, but now to Estabrook Recreation Center. They can go out of their door in the new Ward 11 and walk to the new Ward 12, 6, and 8 in 5 to 10 minutes, but it might take them up to 2 hours to walk to Old Brooklyn. We all know that one side of Shaker Square will share a ward with a section of Slavic Village. That historic neighborhood will now be in 6 different wards. I served 2 terms on the board of Northwest Neighborhood CDC. I saw how important it is that the CDCs align well with neighborhood concerns. I like that local urban planner Greg Soltis, who often works with CDCs, urged you recently to coordinate ward boundaries with CDC service areas. This would, quote, streamline funding mechanisms and political machinery required to make the mission of a CDC successful. Mr. Soltis is correct in my view. When they are not aligned, work does not get done. I would simply add at the conclusion that you guys have not had a chance for administrative review. You've not had a chance as committees to look at these maps. This is a rushed process that should have been started long ago, and I urge you to reject these maps. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Fauzi Badur. Fauzi Badur is from Ward 11. Here to talk about redistricting in Cleveland. He's from a coalition for a better Cleveland, and he's not being paid by anyone.
Good evening. Happy New Year to all. I'm here right from the end. I'm asking you to reject those maps proposal. The maps will destroy the city. The maps will destroy the sense of community in the city. And this communities that exist for over 100 years. I'm part of it for 45 years in that community. It's been like Councilwoman described her word being Turkey thing. Ward 15 now, they want Ward 15 today. It's been like Taliban hanging. They place people, straight line, and hang them. Ward 15 been hanged in those maps. South, north to south. Ward 12, Ward 11, Ward 7. Just to satisfy some, I don't know what. I'm asking your conscience, reject those maps. The other thing, assuming you pass it, we're not giving up. Tomorrow morning, you pass it tonight, tomorrow morning we'll start another alternatives. One of them, to place a referendum to change the structure of this council, reduce it to 9 or 11, and all elected at large, no ward, no district. You divide the communities, we will reunite those communities. And believe me, Council President, talk to us, talk to the League of Women Voters. There's 80 groups oppose this. And you want to find the numbers? Pass it, and we'll find the numbers next election. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brent Masinko. Brent Masinko is from Ward 15 in the Clifton Baltic neighborhood. He's here to talk about redistricting. He's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Brent, you have the floor.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak publicly on the proposed ward maps. My name is Brent Masinko, and I have been a proud homeowner in the Clifton Baltic neighborhood for the last decade. I applaud Council's decision to hire a non-biased, nonpartisan third party to draw the map. I know it's a difficult process when we lose 2 wards and attempt to combine 34 SPAs into just 15 wards. More often than not, using outside consultants is the only truly fair way to draw these maps. I would also like to commend City Council for taking input on these maps over the last few months for the first time. I'm here today in strong support of the process and of the proposed ward maps, particularly with regard to the changes impacting Ward 15, where my home is located. For years, my property has been one of just 3 houses on the West Boulevard section of my neighborhood in Ward 15, with my home being the only single-family, owner-occupied residence. The proposed ward map, however, does something we have long advocated for, fully uniting West Boulevard and the closely knit Clifton Baltic neighborhood, and finally getting rid of the gerrymandered Scorpion's Tail. Additionally, drawing the west side wards more north and south versus east and west increases the socioeconomic diversity in the proposed wards, and that is something that every single one of us should champion. I firmly believe in the strength of our communities and of Cleveland as a whole. I firmly believe that the strength of our communities and of Cleveland as a whole comes from the rich diversity of our population. This map more accurately reflects that diversity and will enhance our ward's ability to grow, thrive, and collaborate. I encourage you all to approve the proposed ward maps today. Thank you for your time, consideration, and for working to make our great city even stronger through thoughtful and effective representation.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Kat Richards from Cleveland to talk about the new ward maps. Kat is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Ms. Richards, you have the floor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kat Richards. I'm a resident of the Edgewater neighborhood for 30-plus years. I've been through 3 redistricting processes, all of which seem to not make sense for my neighborhood. So I'm here in support of the new ward maps. We feel like going south a little bit for us, since we are a single-family resident neighborhood, is better for us. We don't exactly belong in a mixed-use neighborhood. We have one of the most stringent zoning appropriations that there are. So I wanted to thank everybody for letting me speak. It was very interesting to hear everyone else talk about this. It illustrates how complicated the process is. But like I said, for the first time in 30 years, I'm actually impressed with the new map, and I hope that we vote to keep it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Richards. Next, we have Linda Meglin. Linda Meglin is from Ward 15 to talk about the new ward maps. She's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Ms. Meglin, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Linda Meglin, and I live on Edgewater Drive, and I was the president of Edgewater North's Homeowners Association for 13 years. And I still remain active in the neighborhood. I've lived through 2 redistricting processes and believe the maps that this body will hopefully pass tonight are positive and have an excellent result for my neighborhood. I want to give you a little background for everyone about the representation of our neighborhood, because we believe we should be included with our neighbors to the south, not to the east. Now, nothing against the Detroit Shoreway area at all. As a matter of fact, my neighbors and I frequent the businesses often, and our issues facing our neighborhood just closely align with the neighbors in the south. We'd like you to consider the history. From 1963, where Cleveland had 33 wards, the maps ran north and south. This was true to 1986 with 21 wards. Then we were separated. Then in 2003, we were back with our south neighbors when we were represented by Councilman Westbrook. And in 2008, when Cleveland had 21 wards, and they introduced what was called the Scorpion's Tail, we were Ward 18, with our southern neighbors, and we were represented by Councilman Zone. Then in 2010, there were 19 wards, and we were with our southern neighbors, except we weren't a part of with the Scorpion's Tail. And once again, we were represented by Councilman Zone. Then in 2013, Councilman Westbrook agreed to step down, and the boundaries were changed. And then we were moved from the southern to the east-west. So there's where we are today. And I know with all this history, I sound like John Meacham. And if you've lost track, we've been more with our southern neighbors than with the east. So the proposed map return our neighborhood to what is a more natural fit and with what previous council members had determined being connected to the southern neighbors. Again, we certainly support Detroit Shoreway and all the neighborhoods, but our neighborhood does have certain issues that are different from everybody else. Our neighborhood has a very specific zoning. We have created and protected our AA single family for years. Our association has continued to be committed to this, and when the Gold Coast was being put together, being built, the plan was to tear down all the houses on Edgewater Drive, all the houses. And so what we did, the neighborhood did, was, got together, stuck together, fought it, and we won.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meglin. Thank you. Last up, we have James Jermalik from Parma Heights, and he's here to talk about tearing down of St. Vincent Charity Hospital. He's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone.
First, here are copies of at least, if I can't finish the speech in time. Okay, I'll just lay him here. If you want to help me, contact me after the meeting, or if it's on TV, write to City Council, City Hall. I start with a prayer. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, help me. My name is James Jermalik. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I disagree with the Democrats in that I am not for same-sex unions. I am 100% pro-life. I disagree with Trump because I am against deporting people. The Lord gave me the black-white party based on the Ten Commandments, the Bible, the encyclicals of the Pope, and the teaching of the Catholic Church. We are all recipients of God's, Jesus' mercy, and should be charitable to others. Okay. I ask that St. Vincent Charity Hospital not be torn down, but it be used to treat the babies from Gaza. For the last 3 years, the Lord has given me the scripture for the Middle East. The revelation is certain, a great war, Daniel 10:1. Not only will it save babies, but it might well prevent a great regional war. If the Muslims see some charity, some Christianity toward them, the Palestinians, it would temper their vengeance. For example, Hezbollah said, as long as Israel bombed Gaza, they would bomb Israel. In Matthew 25:36, it says, you saw me ill and you cared for me. Well, Lord, when we see you ill, when you did it for the least of my brethren, you did it for me. Scripture says the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. Okay, can you imagine your aunt, mother, grandmother, a baby child being imprisoned in your ward with no way out and being bombed? President Gerald Ford had a baby lift at the end of the Vietnam War. We had a vigil outside of St. Vincent Charity Hospital on Christmas Eve. We had a clear view of the bridge. We heard a loud crash. The man could have been dying. It would have taken 5 minutes to get to St. Vincent had it been open, but 1/2 hour to get to another hospital. And in that case, the guy would be dead on arrival. The doctors in Gaza describe holding a baby's brain flowing out of his hand. The hospital has to use gauze over and over again, spreading infections. Instead of making a political decision, think of your eternal salvation. Instead of being the Marie Antoinette city, outrageous tax increases for the poor, hit-and-run drivers not arrested, and street takeovers, the whole world will admire you. For while they did nothing, Proverbs says, did you fail to rescue those who were being dragged off to death? You did not fail to rescue those tottering near death. Proverbs 24:11. I might get through it. For decades, Nori and I have fought to save babies in the womb from being killed. Now they're killing babies after birth. 33 years from now, no one will know what you did for your ward. But with the Lord, 1,000 years are like a watch in the night. Jesus will always know what you did for his least brethren. You can make a mistake, we all do, allowing St. Vincent Charity Hospital to self-destruct. Is that it?
Up. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll move now to communications. Madam Clerk, please share communications.
File number 23-2025 from Mayor Justin M. Bibb, appointing Hazel Gutierrez Ramesh to the Fair Housing Board, term ending December 31st, 2028. File number 24-2025 from Council President Blaine A. Griffin, designating without objection by Council Alan Dreyer to serve as Clerk of Council Pro Tem for matters requiring the clerk's signature between December 3rd to the 6th, 2024. File number 25-2025, oath of office for Marka Fields, Interim Director, City Planning Commission, City of Cleveland. File number 26-2025, from Council President Blaine A. Griffin, designating without objection by Council Alan Dreyer to serve as Clerk of Council Pro Tem for matters requiring the clerk's signature between December 17th, 2024 and January 5th, 2025. From the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, file number 27-2025, regarding a stock transfer application at 4127 East 131st Street, Ward 1. File number 28-2025, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 24 Public Square, Ward 3. File number 29-2025, regarding a transfer of location application at 14201 Harvard Avenue, Ward 1. File number 30-2025, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 1930 East 79th Street, Ward 7. File number 31-2025, regarding a new license application at 12400 Crossburn Avenue, Ward 16. File number 32-2025, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 3590 Bosworth Road, Ward 11. File number 33 2025 regarding a transfer of ownership application at 15428 Lakeshore Boulevard, Ward 8. File number 34-2025 regarding a transfer of ownership application at 13960 Lorraine Avenue, Ward 16. File number 35-2025 regarding a transfer of ownership application at 3892 West 130th Street, Ward 16. File number 36-2025 regarding a new license application at 2600 Detroit Avenue, Ward 3. File number 37-2025 regarding a new license application at 24 Public Square, Ward 3. File number 38-2025 regarding a transfer of ownership application at 15239 Triscuit Road, Ward 17. File number 39-2025 regarding an economic development transfer application at 17004 Lorraine Avenue, Ward 17. File number, this doesn't have a file number. It's type application D2, D2X, D3 from Ward 1.
Condolence resolutions.
Oh, there is it. Okay. Resolutions of condolence by Councilmember Griffin for Annie R. Bedell, by Councilmember Moore for Mary Ann Fraught, by Councilmember Conwell for Quentin Theron Rucker, by Councilmember Griffin for Robert David Sopko, by Councilmember Griffin for Ian William Haggerty, by Councilmember Griffin for David M. Lenahan, by Councilmember Santana for Sharon Lynn Hogue, by Councilmember Gray for Carrie Randall, by Councilmember Starr for Inez B.C. Thompson, by Councilmember Conwell for Anthony Van Norfleet, by Councilmember Council for Joyce Mohammed Logan Cross, by Councilmember Gray for Margaret Foxhall Davis, by Councilmember Moore for Dr. Sharon Fields, by Councilmember Griffin for James C. Barnwell Jr.
Are there any other condolence resolutions? I see Councilman McCormick, Councilman Pulisic, and Councilwoman House Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Without your objection, I think all of council should hold a number for former President Jimmy Carter.
Can we all be marked as condolence for former President Jimmy Carter? Thank you. Any other condolence resolutions?
Yeah, I'm going to do one.
Once again, no signs are allowed. I'm going to ask if everyone can put the signs down. I'm going to ask nicely. Next time, I'm going to ask if whoever put the signs up is actually removed. Thank you. Councilman Pulisic.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, would you please hold out a number for David Trenton? David Trenton, former member of this body years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. So duly noted. Councilwoman House Jones.
Yes, can we hold out a number for Chauncey Devon Williams, Lady Shirley Francis Smith Hilton, and George Lawrence Sr.
Thank you. Duly noted. Councilman Harsh. Yeah. And that was another one, if all of us can be added to that. Richie has done a great job for this city.
So noted.
Thank you. Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we hold out a number for Niles McKinney? He's a great musician. He played for us several times. Niles McKinney.
Thank you. Thank you. Duly noted. Councilman Brian Casey.
Madam Clerk, on 53-2025, that's actually my resolution. If you could just add my name to it, thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you could hold out a number for Randy Newby and Timothy Rutledge. Timothy Rutledge. Are there any other condolence resolutions? Council members, please rise for a moment of silence.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any congratulatory resolutions?
Resolutions of congratulations by Councilmember House Jones for Reverend B.W. Bennett, by Councilmember Griffin for Thomas Einhaus, by Councilmember House Jones for LaJean Ray. Resolutions of recognition by Councilmember Polensik for Everlena McNeeser, by Councilmember Santana for Juan Molina Crespo, by Councilmember Spencer for Detective Asp, by Councilmember Spencer for Sergeant Becca, by Councilmember Spencer for Detective Poff, by Councilmember Spencer for Patrol Officer Holt Santiago, by Councilmember Spencer for Sergeant Woima, by Councilmember Spencer for Detective Nan, by Councilmember Spencer for Detective Randolph, by Councilmember Spencer for Detective Sistek, by Councilmember Spencer for Detective Singh, by Councilmember Spencer for Patrol Officer Domnori, by Councilmember Spencer for Patrol Officer Kelly, by Councilmember Spencer for Patrol Officer Lozniak, by Councilmember Spencer for Patrol Officer Wagner, by Councilmember Spencer for Detective Jelinek.
Thank you. We do have presentations. I'm going to ask if my colleagues can open up the well, and I want to bring up Ward 6 Precinct, I believe, E. Ward 6 Precinct Committee person, just a great leader in our community, Wanda Chestnut Hill, Reverend Wanda Chestnut Hill, as well as all of the Ward 6 residents or the folks that worked at the Board of Elections, if we could open up the well for them. Thank you. Come on up, come on up. Move this up a little bit. All right. So today I have the honor and the privilege of honoring a couple of Ward 6 residents and a couple of people who worked to polls on Election Day. We know how important our democracy is, and unfortunately, in Ward 6, we had a huge tragedy at Union Square Apartments. Unfortunately, there was a person who lost their life after a fall from the 9th floor. And these election workers, instead of the trauma that they were experiencing, did not go home. They stayed there to work all day to make sure that people had an opportunity to vote. So I wanted to bring them down here today to honor them for protecting our democracy, and we all owe them a debt of gratitude and a round of applause for really focusing on this. Thank you. So Ms. Chestnut Hill is a pastor. You know that she is a friend of ours. She's one of the people that came down last year and lobbied and petitioned for a guardrail because her church continued to get bombarded with car crashes. And you know what? Thanks to Chief Tillwin, she got that guardrail. And just wanted to basically appreciate that whole thing. But you know, this just shows the power of democracy and people that just go about their business every day, making sure that everyday people, ordinary people, are just have an opportunity to vote. They could have went home. They could have checked out. We would have had to scramble to find more poll workers on Election Day to work inside the elections, but they prayed and they stayed at it, and they deserve a debt of gratitude. I want to bring up Ms. Chestnut Hill to make a couple of comments, and then I will give the proclamations for the ones that are here, and then we'll make sure that we give the proclamations for the other workers that could not be here tonight to Ms. Chestnut Hill so that we can continue to honor these folks, okay? Ms. Chestnut Hill.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am delighted and grateful to be here, and to the ones who came out with me. God bless you guys. And Ward 6E, it's a very important ward, and we operate as a family. Although it is a Ward 6E, A, B, C, and D, it doesn't matter what the the titles are, as long as we operate as a family, we are not separated by Ward E and A, because we have collective great leadership. And I think that's important for the council to remember. As long as there's great leadership in each designated area, the city of Cleveland will be fine, as long as we remember to work as a family and to work as a team. And I am grateful for all of the leadership, and I am grateful that we were able to stay together and we operated as a team, we continued as a team, and we succeeded as a team. And thank you all for the recognition.
I'm going to read off all the names of the people who actually stood and once again spent the whole day there, even amongst that traumatic incident. The first one is Shirley Goodman. Here she is. Ms. Shirley, let's give her a round of applause if we could. Tangi Hart is Tangi Hart. I don't believe she's here, but I'll make sure that we give it. Raymond Ellington. Mr. Ellington, here you go. Darlene Paschal, I don't believe she's here. Costella Goodman, I don't believe that she is here. Constance Murphy, we'll make sure that she gets hers. Bridget Hill, we'll make sure that she gets hers. And, hold on, I don't see Miss Chestnuts.
Well, just give Ms.
We'll make sure we get Miss Chestnuts. Miss Chestnut, that just goes to show Miss Chestnut is always thinking about other people and advocating for other people. She has a pastor spirit, and we forgot to make sure that we got hers. So we'll make sure that we get hers and make sure that we do it. But if we could, can we just take a picture? Yeah. Thank you. Come on over. Praise God. Thank you all. Make sure you get those to Miss Chestnut so that we can follow up with those people. Anthony, make sure we get those to Miss Chestnut, and we'll make sure we follow her. Miss Chestnut, I want to give you those, and then we'll follow up with hers. All right, Madam Clerk, first reading emergency ordinances referred for administrative review, committee review.
Ordinance 1925 by Council Member Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance on behalf of Cleveland Municipal Court to apply for and accept a grant from the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for the Addiction Treatment Program administrative fee for year 25 program. Ordinance 2025 by Council Member Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Finance to enter into an agreement with Holland and Knight LLP for the federal lobbying services for the City of Cleveland for a period of 1 year, with one option to renew for an additional 1 year period, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Ordinance 2025 by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Works to employ one or more professional consultants to provide education and training for employees, and to enter into contract with Solid Waste Association of North America for a period of 1 year, with 1 year option to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Works. Ordinance 2025 by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and/or Finance as appropriate to employ one or more professional consultants to assess, recommend, and/or procure property insurance for the Huntington Bank Field located at 100 Alfred Lerner Way and other related services for a period of 1 year. Ordinance 2025 by Council Members Starr, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Directors of Public Works and Economic Development to enter into a ground lease with Rust Belt Riders Composting, LLC, for the use and occupancy of property located at 3270 East 79th Street to consolidate its composting facility operations and to install a retail operation at the location for a period of 10 years with 2 10-year options to renew, exercisable by the Directors of Public Works and Economic Development. Ordinance 42, 2025, by Council Members McCormack, Conwell, Hairston, and Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Health to transfer property located at 4242 Lorraine Avenue to the control, possession, and use of the Department of Community Development or Economic Development, authorizing the sale or lease of property to Penrose Holdings or its designee for future redevelopment, and authorizing the Directors of Public Health, Community Development, and Economic Development and Penrose Holdings to enter into a development agreement relating to this ordinance. Ordinance 43, 2025, by Council Members Bishop, Polensek, and Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance on behalf of the Office of Prevention, Intervention, and Opportunity for Youth and Young Adults to employ one or more professional consultants to design and implement projects to support the transformation of city recreation centers into trauma-informed neighborhood resource and recreation centers, to develop and provide programs and activities for youth and their families to serve as tools to prevent violence, develop skills and knowledge to overcome challenges associated with trauma and toxic stress, and to create opportunities for youth and their families to live quality lives for a period up to 18 months, with one option to renew for a period of 18 months, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Ordinance 44, 2025, by Council Members Bishop and Hairston, by departmental request, upon vacation of Old West Boulevard, to revoke the existing encroachment permit to the Tamir Rice Foundation for the Tamir Rice Memorial, authorizing the mayor and the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to execute a deed of easement over the revoked encroachment permit property, granting to the Tamir Rice Foundation certain easement rights to improve and maintain the Tamir Rice Memorial, granting easements to utility providers for any existing facility through or under the right-of-way of vacated Old West Boulevard, and declaring that the easement rights granted are not needed for the city's public use. Ordinance 45, 2025, by Council Members Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin, by departmental request, to supplement the ordinance of 746, 2024, relating to the Bedrock 41 TIF district by adding 3 new whereas clauses and sections 9A, B, C, D, E, and F, to repeal Section 9 and to amend Section 10 relating to authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement and the Director of Capital Projects to enter into one or more construction management agreements with the Cleveland LD LLC for various public improvements, and authorizing other agreements and documents.
First reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 1, 2025, by Councilmember Griffin, to amend sections 103.002 of the codified ordinances, to repeal sections 103.01 to 17 of the codified ordinances as enacted or amended by various ordinances, and to supplement the codified ordinances by enacting new sections 103.01 to 15 relating to boundaries and wards. Ordinance 2, 2025, by Council Members Gray and Starr, to amend Section 1 of Ordinance 1318, 2024, relating to the agreement with Burton Bell Car Development. Ordinance 3, 2025, by Council Members McCormack, House, Jones, and Hairston, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Cleveland 10-miler on April 26, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 4, 2025, by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the OR OC event on August 2nd, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 5, 2025, by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Parrot Head Run on July 19, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 6, 2025, by Councilmembers McCormack and Moorer, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Towpath Marathon on October 4, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 7, 2025, by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the annual Cleveland Turkey Trot on November 27, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 8, 2025, by Councilmember House Jones, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the UCP of Greater Cleveland 5K on May 4, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 9, 2025, by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Diversity Center's Walk, Rock, Roll, and Run on May 10, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 10, 2025, by Councilmembers McCormack and Spencer, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Westside Catholic Center Pancake Run event on June 7, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 11, 2025, by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Will Run for Tacos 5K event on May 3, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 46, 2025, by Councilmember Griffin, by departmental request, to amend Section 11 of Ordinance 194, 2021, as amended, relating to salaries for various classifications. Ordinance 47, 2025, by Councilmember Griffin, by departmental request, to amend various sections of Ordinance 194, 2021, as amended, relating to salaries for various classifications. Ordinance 81, 2025, by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Homeward Bound 5K on June 21, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 85, 2025, by Councilmember Slife, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the annual Hermes Dead Sprint event on October 25th, 2025, managed by Hermes Sports and Events.
Thank you. Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Polensek.
On both the motion to suspend the rules and on Ordinance 1, 2025.
Duly noted. Can you please mark the councilwoman as a no for both of those?
So noted.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you. Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr.
Councilman Casey.
Madam Clerk, please mark me a no on 1, 2025. Thank you.
All right. Call the roll on passage.
I did. It's 14 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you. First reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 12, 2025, by Councilmember Griffin, appointing 2 members of the Local Board of Tax Review. Resolution 13, 2025, by Councilmember Hairston, objecting to a new D1 liquor permit at 4034 St. Clair Avenue. Resolution 14, 2025, by Councilmember Jones, objecting to a new D1 liquor permit at 4680 Lee Road. Resolution 15, 2025, by Councilmember Jones, objecting to the transfer of stock of a C2, C2X, and D6 liquor permit to 4127 East 131st Street. Resolution 16, 2025, by Councilmember Jones, objecting to the transfer of location of a D5 liquor permit to 14201 Harvard Avenue. Resolution 17, 2025, by Councilmember Casey, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a C1, C2 liquor permit to 13710-12 Lorraine Avenue. Resolution 18, 2025, by Councilmember Hairston, withdrawing objection to a stock C1 and C2 liquor permit at 13920 St. Clair Avenue and repealing Resolution 799, 2024, objecting to said permit. Resolution 82, 2025, by Councilmember Casey, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a C2 and C2X liquor permit to 3892 West 130th Street. Resolution 83, 2025, by Councilmember Polensek, withdrawing objection to the transfer of ownership of a D5 liquor permit to 768 East 200th Street and repealing Resolution 1332, 2024, objecting to said permit. Resolution 84, 2025, by Councilmember Polensek, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a C1, C2 liquor permit to 15428 Lakeshore Boulevard.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage. Seconded by Councilmember Polensek.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Call the roll on adoption.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency ordinance is to be passed.
Ordinance 1320, 2024, by Council Members Hairston, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, to amend the title in Section 1 of Ordinance 531, 2023, as amended, relating to authorizing the Director of Capital Projects and/or Port Control as appropriate to enter into one or more contracts for the detailed design and/or construction of the early implementation phase of the Cleveland Harbor Eastern Embayment Resilience Strategy Project.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage. Seconded by Councilmember Polensek.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. We'll now move to introductions, and it is, first of all, my privilege and honor to announce my friend, the former state representative, former state senator, and also former director of the Community Relations Board, John Barnes Jr., if he would please stand. John Barnes Jr. Let's give him a round of applause, John Barnes Jr. I also want to take a moment, and I know that I'm probably going to hear several comments about the map and redistricting, but I do want to ask both of the consultants. 2 out of the 3 consultants are here, and I would like both of them to stand and be acknowledged. That's Dr. Mark Saling and Mr. Kent Whitley, if we get them a round of applause. And I want to thank these gentlemen for really rolling up their sleeves and dealing with a tough process, and really appreciate the time and effort that you put into this, and on behalf of the citizens of the city of Cleveland. Thank you. All right, any other introductions? Any other introductions? Oh, we always need to acknowledge, I know we got a couple of judicial candidates, but Ensign Loving, if Ensign Loving could please stand. And how can we not acknowledge the attorney extraordinaire, Darrell Fields, if he could please stand. Darrell Fields. Stand up, Darrell, so everybody, Darrell, stand up so everybody can see who you are. Wave or something. All right. Okay. All right. We'll go to any other introductions. Any other introductions? Any other introductions? Councilman Richard Starr.
Introduce my council colleague, Mookie over there. He's here, our councilman. Yo, want to make sure I introduce him.
Absolutely. Mook Robinson, a business owner in the St. Clair area and also councilman in Richmond Heights. And we always got to acknowledge our good friend, Roger Carney. I know he's retired, but Roger, good to see Roger here. Any other introductions or acknowledgements? Any other introductions or acknowledgements? Announcements, any announcements? Any announcements? Any announcements? We'll move to miscellaneous, any miscellaneous? And Councilwoman Moore has asked for extra time, so I'll give her extra time and then I'll come back to Councilman McCormick.
I don't know that I'll need the extra time, but I appreciate it. I rise tonight to give a voice to so many of my residents who are here. Frankly, in the introduction sections, I didn't even want to stop to talk to the many Ward 12 residents that are here tonight and the many, many in Slavic Village who couldn't come here tonight, but who filled out these petitions at our Holodazzle and Block Club meetings that I know were sent to all of the council members. And I rise tonight because so many of my residents, they've called, they've come to City Hall, they've signed petitions, they've written emails, and I want to give them a voice in this room tonight. Tonight I voted no on Ordinance 1, 2025, which redistricts our wards in honor of them. And I want to take a moment to explain some of my thinking and why I chose to follow in their footsteps in saying that these maps were not the right fit for Ward 12 and for Slavic Village. I'm troubled by the transparency, by the broken promises around community engagement throughout this process. First and foremost, politicians should not be drawing our own maps. And you can vote yes on this bill tonight. I know many of you did, and also believe that we need to move towards a change where we take the line drawing process out of the hands of politicians. It should be independent. It should be separate from where council members live. It should be focused fully on neighborhoods. It should be focused fully on what we talked about at the beginning, which are natural boundaries. That's not what happened, but we can make sure that it's what happens next time if we all commit to a charter change that makes sure that council members are not the ones voting on our own maps. We here are 17 Democrats. We all unanimously supported issue 1 at the state level to make map drawing independent statewide, and I truly believe that we need to do the same thing here. Secondly, this legislation is passing tonight under suspension of our rules. And I want to tell you a little bit about how those rules work, because sometimes it's a little confusing. Under our charter, every legislation that passes through the city of Cleveland is supposed to get 3 readings. What's a reading? It's what Clerk Britt did where she reads the legislation out loud here in this body. It's not the debate process, but it's a reading of the bill into the city record here at City Hall on a Monday night. Typically, we pass almost all of our legislation under a typical suspension of the rules, which takes us to 2 readings and to 1 committee hearing in between those 2 hearings. That's what's a typical emergency ordinance or emergency resolution. What we did here tonight was we passed this legislation with only 1 reading. And when we do that, for normal bills, something aside from a liquor permit or for the I Will Run for Tacos 5K, which was also passed this evening, we have a committee hearing. Even though it's not formal, it's not required because it hasn't been read into the legislation, we are across the hall in the committee at the finance hearing, making sure that we have a public process around something that's being passed under such an emergency suspension of the rules. I have seen that happen when we are ordering new parts for our helicopter, and we did not do that here tonight. We had that chance to have a public hearing on these maps, and instead, we did not do that. We passed it, we read it, and we passed it at the exact same time. And that is one of the many reasons that I voted no. The third reason is that because of this process, there's fundamental confusion and line drawing that splits up neighborhoods that harms Ward 12, it harms the residents of Slavic Village. I want to talk about Slavic Village in particular. Currently, it's represented in the old maps, it was carved up all sorts of ways so that there were 4 different council members who were representing it. And there were members of this body who, when talking publicly about these maps, said, well, hey, I'm really supportive of these because now Slavic Village is in only 2 wards, and that's a step in the right direction. That's not what we passed tonight. We passed a bill that split Slavic Village still into 3 different parts for no discernible reason. There was no requirement under the demographics. We would still have been within the 5% variance if we had made it into only 2 wards. And God help me, one day I want Slavic Village to only be in 1 ward and to have 1 advocate who can come down here and push for changes on Fleet Avenue, at East 55th and Broadway, in Warner Turney. Make sure that we have that solid, consistent advocacy that this neighborhood has been lacking, and is one of the many reasons why it's a neighborhood that continues to struggle. There are also little things. I mean, as recently as a couple of hours ago, I was talking with some of you about a little line of homes and businesses squished on one side between 176 and West 14th Street that have been separated from their block club on the other side. And to my understanding, I think we're all on the same page. I know the residents and the business owners want to just be a part of their block club that's on the other side of West 14th, but because we pushed this under suspension of the rules with no opportunities for comments or for amendments, we didn't get that fixed in time. And now that section is going to have to deal with the repercussions and have a different representative. I understand that when you go from 17 council members to 15 council members, as is required under our charter, there are going to be politicians who lose. It's going to be musical chairs. That is going to happen. But I voted no because I do not believe that neighborhoods should lose out. We do not have to play musical chairs with our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods deserve better than this. And for those reasons, I voted no on Ordinance 1, 2025.
Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate, thank you, Mr. President, I appreciate the time this evening. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone had a great holiday season and New Year. I want to make one correction that I heard in public comment tonight. There have been 3 fabulous people who have represented downtown Cleveland for years. Councilwoman House Jones and Starr joined me in representing downtown Cleveland, and they do a darn good job at doing that. So the 3 of us have done that for years, and I just wanted to recognize them because they've been an integral part of downtown Cleveland, the neighborhood, the residents that live there in the community for years, and have done a really good job representing them alongside myself. So I wanted to make that note. Mr. President, I rise today to thank you for leading this redistricting process. There is no way to win this process from your perspective. There is no way for you or any other council president to quote unquote win this process, meaning make every single person happy. But I know from the beginning, Mr. President, that that wasn't your goal, nor should have been. Your goal was to run a process with knowing that you were reducing 2 council members to look at neighborhoods and to do the best you could, taking in public feedback and feedback from the community to create wards that make sense. A city of Cleveland that, if you look at the physical makeup of it, is a funky city. The municipal lines of the city of Cleveland, before you even get into the wards themselves, is a funky shaped city. So working on that to ensure that you did the best job you could, I fundamentally believe that you did that, and I thank you for running that process, Mr. Chairman. I read in the newspaper yesterday that Ohio City and Tremont were obliterated into pieces. To my surprise, as I look at this map right here, as a lifelong city of Cleveland resident, and I see my neighborhood's completely intact, that I've represented, had the privilege of representing for 9 years. The misinformation that has flown on this issue is ridiculous, performative, and I understand the fact that there are folks that are not happy with it. Mr. President, you're aware that there are parts of this map that I don't like. I'm aware that there are parts of Ward 6 you don't like. So my point, Mr. President, is to say, I understand this is an imperfect process. I understand, Mr. President, that folks are not going to be happy with every component of it. I understand that fact, but I want to appreciate you, the leadership, what you took from people that loved it, hated it. You heard it tonight on the public comment, Mr. Chairman. folks that are not happy with the way it works out, folks that are happy with the way it worked out. But at the end of the day, I want to recognize your leadership in this process. For the first time that we can see running public meetings around the process, engaging the community, always keeping an open mind. And Council President, as I've told you from day one, one of the things that I admire about you most is you listen to people and you listen to people. It doesn't mean at the end of the day that everyone's going to agree or you're going to agree with everybody, but I wanted to recognize you for your leadership in this matter. I know that you worked hard to listen to folks, to listen to council members, to take in feedback. And at the end of the day, is this map perfect? No. Perfection with a redistricting process like this is impossible. I look at my ward as your majority leader, as your number 2, and there are parts I don't like about it. But what I do know is that you did your best, Mr. President, to find a solution that would work best from everyone, even including parts of your own ward that you didn't like how the map was drawn tonight. So again, Mr. President, I want to recognize you. Thank you for this process. Thanking all the members who also leaned in. Again, I could probably look at every single one of you, and there's something about this map in your ward that you would change if you could, and that's the way that this process has worked. So again, this idea that you are ruining the city, that that Ohio City and Tremont are obliterated into pieces with, if you believe your lying eyes, if you look right at the map, is simply not true. I read about Ohio City and Tremont and the Plain Dealer today being obliterated into pieces. Don't know where that even came from. My point is, Mr. President, is that we're at the end of a process that I know you worked very hard on, you lost a lot of sleep on, and that you took a lot of feedback, both pros and cons from everybody. But at the end of the day, I believe that you kept your eyes in the middle of the road and made sure that we ended up in a decent place and with maps that made as best sense as we could, losing 2 seats and having a whole lot of different opinions on all sides of the issue, and an already funkily drawn city of Cleveland that, again, if you look at the existing boundaries, are quite unique. And the last thing I'll say, Mr. President, is I've had the honor of representing Ohio City and Tremont and Burke Lakefront Airport, and I can walk and chew gum at the same time and represent Burke Lakefront Airport and near West Side neighborhoods. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you so much for your keen remarks. Appreciate it. Councilman Michael Polensek. Councilman Michael Polensek.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable Mayor, members of the administration. I hope this is working because there's a little thing missing here. Mr. Chairman, I rise. This is my 4th redistricting. And I was here when there were 33. We went from 33 to 21 to 19 to 17 and now 15. And as I've said before, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die in this business. And at the end of the day, this has been a very tough process. Believe me, I'm not happy with my own lines, but I understand what has happened in this city. I understand by the population loss. And what I heard tonight troubled me, because what I heard again was that somehow now we're going to decimate council. Suggestions we decimate it even more, reduce it, or have council people elected at large. If you want the boys with the fat checkbooks to control this city, you just go with a council elected at large and see what you get. That's what you'll get. That's what you will get. So at the end of the day, people better think long and hard about this process. I would suggest maybe we should go back to 17 on a charter amendment, so you can stabilize the city, because continuing to reduce the body takes away representation, and I'm going to be very parochial about it, takes away representation more from the east side than what we've seen in the past. That's what's happened. With the population law, should be a wake-up call for all of us. Unless the city collectively focuses more on quality of life issues, public safety, education, services, all the things that are important to our citizens, because people talk with their feet. Businesses talk with their feet. And look at the demographic changes in the inner ring suburbs. Speaks for themselves. Unless we can figure out collectively how to pay greater attention to neighborhoods, as I want to tell you right now, and I'm not here to offend anybody, but if you think a bridge between City Hall and the courthouse down to the lakefront where there's going to be an empty stadium is going to stabilize any neighborhoods in our city, you're wrong. Okay? If you think by using $60 million to reconstruct the roads at the end of 9th Street is going to stabilize any neighborhoods, you're wrong. Because what we were told and what I was told in this body, that if we built 3 sports complexes, everything was going to be hunky-dory here. And we've lost more population than ever. I'm still waiting for the 28,000 jobs from Gateway that we were promised. Never received those. So unless we collectively, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues and Mayor, and the Mayor's team, unless we step back and analyze what's been taking place in our city, I can think of all the bad decisions. I can think of building a lakefront line from Tower City to a parking lot. Think about that, which doesn't run half the time. Of building a hotel with no parking downtown. Of the medical mart, when what we were, oh, that was going to save us, wasn't it? You saw a Cleveland Clinic run from that like jackrabbits in heat. Okay? So we cannot continue to keep making bad decisions here. We all got to sit down and figure out how we're going to stabilize this population, because you think, to my brothers and sisters, and I appreciate everyone that came here to speak on the redistricting. I thought they were eloquent and they were heart-spoken. But if you think it's tough now, you just wait to continue to lose more population and see what you're going to have. You ain't seen nothing yet. You want to talk about carnage in this city? You will see it. We have got to figure out how to better address the concerns, because not only is Cleveland not growing, my brothers and sisters, the county is not growing. That's a fact we have to contend with. So unless we all step back and analyze where our priorities should be, what we're doing here, we're going into the budget this coming April. We got to focus more on quality of life issues, on city services. And if we don't, then we're going to continue to see this migration out. And I received as many calls, probably more calls than a lot of people in this body with the redistricting. Because in those 4 redistrictings that I went through, 3 times I was either completely out of the ward or linked with another community, and here I am again. But I understand it, and I understand with the council president, because I talk with him virtually almost every day about this process. This was a tough one, my brothers and sisters, very tough. I could have got up here tonight and voted against it as well, very easily, because I'm not happy with the lines. But I understand why, and Mr. Chairman, you were open, you were accessible. I think you tried to do the best you could with the population loss. And I tell people again, look at the numbers. The numbers speak for themselves, what has happened in this city. So at the end of the day, I'm going to quote a former mayor, it is what it is. It is what it is. And unless we can address those major issues, if you think bike paths are going to stabilize our neighborhood, wrong. If you think all this other glitz and glamour is going to stabilize our neighborhoods, it hasn't done it. We have to do things differently as we go forward. I look forward to working with you, Mr. Chairman, the mayor, his team, my colleagues as we go into the budget. But we got to get our priorities straight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate it. Well spoken. Is there any more miscellaneous? I first of all want to thank everybody here. I want to thank the citizens. I know a lot of people think that that I get angry with this. Sometimes you do get a little bit frustrated, but at the end of the day, citizens are only speaking up for what they believe they deserve. We have to weigh information from multiple sources in order to make tough decisions. This was a very tough process. I will tell you, in light of some of the comments that we got about, St. Hyacinths, as well as the Clifton Baltic area, we did make some amendments and adjustments to what we originally put out there based on community feedback. I will also tell you, which is something that I'm not proud of, we lost 2 wards on the east side. 2 wards disappeared from the east side, which the population actually declined precipitously on the east side of Cleveland. We had to expand and move more of the wards from east to west in the city on the east side, and we took the opportunity to move wards from north to south so that we could try to keep as much intact as possible. I will also tell you that one of the things that I did is pulled maps from all the way from 1960. Please look at our website. If you want to see how this city has been chopped up in the past and how it's been chopped up compared to the map that you see now, take a look at the maps from when we went from 33 to 21 to 19 to 17 and now to 15. If anything we learned through this process is that we got to do a better job of making sure that everybody's counted for the census. As Councilman Pulisic said, we got to do better with quality of life. I don't mind confrontation. I don't mind having debates and having differences. What I do mind is decorum. And we did try to put a process in place that we felt had decorum. For example, Slavic Village and the Forest Hills neighborhood. In doing research, because my colleague brought up that she felt that, that neighborhood was not being left intact, I find out that former Councilman Joe Semperman, when it was Ward 13, actually went from Tremont and Slavic Village that included Forest City and went all the way to Broadway, where the former hospital used to be on Broadway. This is not new, okay? We tried to put 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag. It was not easy. As Councilman Pulisic said, there were parts of the ward that I have to give up. I see the McDonald family in here. I enjoyed working with them in the East 65th corridor. I don't have that opportunity anymore. I don't have that opportunity to represent where my grandfather brought me to this city because I also sacrificed. I have to go to parts of Huff. And as much as I love Huff, as much as I love this city, I don't know it as much as other people. We all had to sacrifice. So I want to thank all of you, especially the council members that sacrificed. I know this was a tough process. I know that some people were, less happy than others. But at the end of the day, I will tell you that there were several renditions of maps and several maps that we tried to model to try to get this right. This was not something where we just woke up one morning and say, this is it, let's move. These consultants will tell you we spent countless hours trying to figure out, after they put the data sets together, interviewed people, got feedback, because I made them go to the public and get feedback from the public. Then we had council members that actually gave feedback, and then they talked about some of their priorities and some of their things. For example, my colleague, Danny Kelly, thought it was very important to make sure that he had a Catholic parish in his ward. Those are things that we considered and we looked at, development projects, other things. Once again, everybody had to sacrifice. Everybody has new opportunities and new wards to go to. And I just want to thank the community as well as thank my colleagues for putting together what I think was a good process. Was it perfect? No. I'll be the first one to tell you I'm a perfectionist and I like to see more improvement. I'm not sold yet on a citizens panel. That's something we can have a broader conversation about. But at the end of the day, all I will tell you is that we gave our best effort, we did the best that we could, and we believe that we have a process that was transparent, that was fair, and a process that all of us can be proud of. So once again, thank all of you guys. I do see Councilman Richard Starr, if he would like to make any comments, and then I will adjourn.
Thank you, Council President. Heavy as the crown that you wear, right? And with that being said, it's easy to point the blame to you. But at 2008, when the people in the city voted on this process the way it is, nobody said nothing. Nobody screamed. Nobody came and hollered. Nobody said, well, let's organize to make sure people in our community is completing the census. The census tract was tied into this process, which people don't want to understand the facts. This is something that happened as a charter amendment that the people voted and passed. And now you the council president and you have to honor the charter amendment. Now you the bad guy. Now you the bad guy. I know many people when we were going through this map in areas that we seen the population, I'm like, no, there's a few hundred people live here. And it's not on the map because guess what? People didn't fill out the census because we were either incompetent or not understanding, or people were scared to open the door because we was going through a global pandemic. But we also got to understand, everyone screamed voting. Everyone screamed voting. But where they are at to make sure our people are educated to help us. They always try to say, because you got elected, it's your job to do everything. It's over 370-something thousand people in this city. How do 18 elected officials can solve everything for you? And like some of my colleague, Councilwoman House Jones say, nobody's coming to save nobody. You got to save yourself. You got to help yourself. So when the census tract come around and it's time to fill out the census, I expect everybody in here that came out here to talk about the process to get out here to help make sure people are filling out the census. Because it's more than just this redistricting. Census tract affects funding, federal dollars that we can get in our community. So when you say you're tired of your neighborhood looking a certain way and you don't want to do the small things and just say the elected officials got to do it, you are a part of the problem. So, Council President, whether somebody like you or dislike you, you had to honor the charter amendment to the best of your ability, and you did that. And everybody is not going to win every way. And I know that I was not pleased with certain parts of this map, but we also have an understanding that we got another census coming around in 6 years, 7 years. I just hope people understand this process and understand that they have to do something to help us, or you're going to see less representation and you're going to be calling maybe 14 people, 12 people hoping to get something when you can't get it. It's all about the process. It's all about honoring the charter amendment that we took an oath to stand by. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Starr. Appreciate it. Seeing no other comments, we are going to, Madam Clerk, please excuse the absences.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the absence of Councilmember Spencer is hereby excused, seconded by Councilmember Polensek.
Thank you. Council is adjourned to the next regular meeting on January 13th, 2025. Happy New Year, everyone.